Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down the big stories behind the numbers. Today we're diving into the fascinating and, let's be honest, kind of confusing story of India's biggest airline, IndiGo.
Okay, so here's the central puzzle we're trying to solve. IndiGo just posted this absolutely massive loss, and yet, at the exact same time, their grip on the Indian market has never been stronger. So, how on earth is that possible?
On one hand, you've got this number, a net loss of over 2,500 crore. I mean, that's a figure that would make any investor pretty nervous, to say the least.
But then, you see this, a record-breaking 63.6% of the domestic market. They are, without a doubt, the undisputed king of the Indian skies. So you've got this staggering loss right next to total dominance. What gives?
So what is really going on here? Well, to understand this paradox, we need to pop the hood and take a look at the airline's engine, the actual financials, beyond that big, scary headline number.
So the main culprit here isn't really about how many tickets IndiGo sold or how many planes they flew. It's something called foreign exchange loss, or forex loss. You see, a huge chunk of an airline's costs, we're talking planes, spare parts, maintenance, it's all paid for in US dollars. So when the Indian rupee gets weaker against the dollar, all those costs just explode on paper.
And this is where the whole story flips. That giant net loss we saw, it's almost entirely an accounting thing, a paper loss caused by those currency swings. If you just set that forex impact aside for a second and look at the actual business of flying people from point A to point B, you see a completely different picture, an operational profit. The engine itself is running just fine.
And when I say just fine, I mean it's absolutely firing on all cylinders. Revenue's up, key profit metrics have surged, and they're actually making more money on every ticket they sell. They're so confident, in fact, they've actually raised their growth forecast for the rest of the year.
Okay, so now that we know the core business is solid, we can start to see where all this strength is pointing. And this, my friends, is where the story gets really big. IndiGo isn't just thinking about India anymore. They have a truly global ambition.
This quote from their CEO, Peter Albers, really says it all. The goal here isn't just to be India's #1 airline anymore. It's to completely transform into a major player on the world stage by the end of this decade.
So how are they going to pull this off? Well, the strategy is basically to go global without losing the secret sauce that made them a giant back home. Cheap fares, on-time flights, and an obsession with keeping costs low. It's a really delicate balancing act, tapping into this new generation of Indians who want to see the world without forgetting what got you here. Of course, a global vision is just a dream if you don't have the hardware to make it happen. So let's look at the actual planes and the new destinations that are supposed to turn this ambition into a reality.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It's wild. They're about to get planes that can fly to Europe non-stop. Then they're adding the big wide-body jets for even longer flights. And by 2030, they're planning to double their entire fleet. That is just monumental growth.
And a huge piece of this puzzle is this one specific plane, the A321 XLR. This thing is a total game changer. Think of it as a normal single-aisle plane, but with the marathon-like range to fly all the way from India to places like London, Paris, or Tokyo non-stop. It basically unlocks a whole new world for them.
And they're not even waiting for those new planes to start making moves. Look at this list of new routes they just launched. Bali, Manchester, Guangzhou. The international push is already happening right now.
Okay, but it's not all clear skies ahead. This incredibly ambitious flight plan is heading into some pretty serious storm clouds. The entire aviation industry is facing some major headwinds at the moment. First up, the age-old enemy of every airline, the cost of fuel. Aviation fuel makes up a massive 40% of an airline's operational costs. Just let that sink in. Any little spike in global oil prices hits their bottom line hard.
And it really doesn't stop there. India is staring down a critical shortage of pilots and crew. That same forex problem we talked about is always a risk, and new regulations are about to make everything more expensive. It is a tough environment to be flying in.
And finally, there's the competition. Now yeah, this chart shows IndiGo is clearly dominant, but its main rival, the Air India Group, is now consolidated and has the massive financial backing of the Tata Group. That is a formidable competitor, both here in India and on the global stage.
Which really brings us to the final critical question. Can IndiGo actually pull off this incredible transformation?
Can it hold on to its low-cost DNA while it builds out a more premium global offering, all while flying through some of the worst industry turbulence we've seen in years? That is the billion-dollar question that is going to define the future of Indian aviation.